Location, location, location. It's important when buying a house, and it's important when researching your ancestors. Creating your own genealogy location guide for researching your ancestors ensures you do not overlook important repositories that you could be utilizing in your research. Hey guys, if you are new to the channel, I'm Lisa, genealogy researcher and author, and this YouTube channel is dedicated to helping you find your ancestors, grow your family tree, but not get overwhelmed in the process. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, you're in the right place. A location guide for your genealogy research includes the location and details about the repositories and other places genealogy records are kept that you might need to utilize in your research. So when you include a research guide as part of your genealogy research plan, you have quick access to that information, and you can easily add information to it as you learn more. Now, typically for on-site research, I create a location guide based on county, but you could create a research guide based on a particular city, a region, a state, or even an ethnic group of people. So in this video, let's consider what a county location guide might look like. What would we actually include in that county guide? Include a brief history of the county. Now this is very short, guys, just one or two sentences that would perhaps indicate when the county was formed, perhaps the parent counties that it was formed from, and if there's been any significant record loss in that county. Next up, include online county resources that you could potentially use. Things such as the local historical and genealogical society, the county office's website, particularly they have online access to records such as their deeds. And I also include the local library and any online databases that might be available to me as well. Next up, you want to include any repositories in the area that would have records that you could potentially use in your genealogy research. List out the repository, list out the hours of operation, list out their address and their phone number as well. Under each of those repositories that is listed, I would suggest that you actually indicate some of their policies that you might need to be aware of, such as, are digital photos of the records allowed? Not every place does allow that. What you're allowed to take into the search room and what you're not. Are lockers available for you to place your items in? These policies vary greatly from repository to repository, so if you know them ahead of time, it allows you to plan a little bit easier and not have to go through, go back to your car to put something in your car or be stressed out about how to store your items. If a repository is known for a specific type of item or specific type of collection that I'm particularly interested in, then I might make a special note of that collection to make sure I don't miss that. And then also include, if you actually have a contact at that repository, someone that you've talked with in the past, include that on your location guide as well as their contact information so that you have all of that information about the repository in one place. Now let me ask you a favor. If you enjoyed learning about location guides, I would love it if you would hit that subscribe button in the bottom right hand corner, and that way you will be notified when new videos from Are You My Cousin are released. Now here's something else I add to a location guide for specific repositories as well. If they are repositories that I am going to be traveling to in person, I actually will list out parking options and parking prices, because sometimes parking, depending on where you're going, may be a little difficult. So I want to make sure I know where to go to park. I also want to make sure what the cost of parking might be, because in some areas, in some larger cities, parking can be quite expensive. So I want to check to see if that's going to be an issue for me or not. So I typically will make a note of that as well. Now, here's another thing that I'll add to my location guide, and that is local restaurants or something close, local food. So in other words, if we're researching, I don't want to take a lot of time that day figuring out where I'm going to eat lunch. So if I haven't brought it with me, which I actually do quite a bit, I'd like to know ahead of time what's close by in the area that perhaps I could walk to or get to easily so that I can grab a quick lunch and get back to researching quickly. So I do this ahead of time so that I'm not scrambling on that day. Now, when you create your research guide, it's really quite simple. It doesn't need to be complicated. I typically keep them in my Google Docs and store them in my Google Drive. That way I can access them on any of my devices and really at my fingertips whenever I need them. But a Google Word doc works just fine, or however you prefer to do it is absolutely fine. The nice thing about when you create a location guide for your research is the fact that, well, you really only have to create it once or kind of grow it as you go. And the reason is that way, if you find yourself researching in that area, whether in person or virtually, in the future for a different ancestor or to further your research, you've already got that guide there and you don't have to do that. This one's already done. It can be an important piece and it can just make life a little easier. So I like to include these as part of my research plans in general. Now learn more about what to include in a successful genealogy research plan in the video on your screen now. What your genealogy research is missing. Let's find those ancestors with a good plan.